Rev, what up?
What's going on?
How are you, dude?
Pretty good.
Good to see you. I saw you on Saturday. And,
Yeah.
Here we are in the studio.
Yeah.
Our first podcast.
Number one.
What are all your feels right now, man? What are you feeling like? This is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I know we're going to look back like a year from now and be like, oh my God, we did it so wrong. But
I feel like you're right.
yeah.
Well, man, we had fun on Saturday. We had Rev and I had an event on Saturday. We had a wedding, and we'll give you guys our backstory here in just a minute. But we wanted to talk about this wedding that we did on Saturday. We did it at this local place here in Northwest Arkansas called the Grand at Willow Springs.
Prairie Grove, baby.
Prairie Grove, baby. And I mean, look, it was in the country, but it's like super close to Fayetteville. Like it's only like, 10, 12 minutes. So super dope. I mean, oh my gosh, huge place. I have my thoughts, but
They did it right.
yeah,
They put a lot of thought.
Yeah.
It was sick.
Yeah. So the event in and of itself, wedding, they have this chapel, set aside. Then the room is massive. It's probably the biggest venue.
Yeah.
Would you say?
I think you could fit like 400 people in there comfortable.
Yeah. It's
nuts.
It's nuts. There's staircases everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And and the ceilings are how tall? I mean,
50 feet. I don't know. My measurements are not good.
We're not carpenters.
No.
We're not architects. We're DJs.
Yeah.
But it's huge, and it's very similar to another venue that we have here in town, Osage House. And, and we're going to talk about our gear here in a minute, about what we used and that whole experience in and of itself. But I just wanted to get your honest thoughts on a Saturday and chop it up. I'll give you mine. And so let me set this up first. Let's do this. So I asked Rev to come and be, in the event with me. This is the first time we'd ever done this in working together. Rev and I have been working together for a little over a year now. And I asked Rev, whose name is Jonathan, by the way, Jonathan Revelle, everybody, Russ Collins. So I asked Jonathan to come, and we're going to tag team DJ this thing. The first time we'd ever done something like this. It's club style.
Yeah.
I'd never done it. Rev's you'll find, is very experienced doing this.
Yeah.
And so I asked you to come, and then we had some moving parts. We had video projection in the middle of the dance floor that we literally had to really, really rig up.
Yeah.
And then we just had a bunch of moving parts with that. And then ceremony in this other side of the house. We had 2 setup guys come and help us out. It was the biggest, technical wedding that I'd ever done. And so I was like, I got to have Rev there. There's really, because you're so good, on the fly. You just get the lingo. We obviously have other team members that are a part of Ozark Mix, but nobody with your experience and your on the fly know-how.
You're building me up too much.
And I was like, Rev's got to be here.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, just to clarify, I came in after the ceremony was already done and wrapped up, and everybody was filtering in for the reception dinner portion, getting snacks and drinks and all that. And Russ looked not nervous, but stressed.
I was stressed.
And there was a lot going on, and I just wanted to try and bring the stress down and be like, we're going to make it through this. And he had sent me a timeline. So I'm looking through, making sure, and we were already 20 minutes behind everything. And then first thing off the bat, this guy comes up, and there's a live singer, so he needs a microphone, and we're playing his audio off of your laptop.
Yes.
And then my laptop's also hooked up. The video portion of it, their first dance and
all 3 dances, right? Father of the bride and
mother, son,
and their first dance were all.
They were showing slideshows up on the wall, basically, which was super cool.
It was
I liked
so
it.
creative,
and had the words of the song going.
Oh yeah, it was dope. Man.
Yeah,
I mean, it was so dope. I thought that part was super cool.
But it added an amount of stress that I've never seen.
Your boy was stressed out.
Yeah.
When you showed up, man, I had already had this ceremony situation. So what happened in the ceremony was the chapel's beautiful, dude. it has this full-on, built-in, custom AV situation.
Yeah.
But you and I are so used to our team and our setup. We bring our own ceremony rig, which is an Everse 8.
Yep.
And we've got the mic, and we just are able to kind of control our own environment. And this one time I made like a game time decision to forego that and to use the equipment that was in the ceremony space. It, to be honest with you, was a mistake.
Did it sound good?
Okay. So the audio was fine. Like, again, there was a singer and there was someone who was giving a reading, and there was the officiant. So there were 3 different people that were going to talk at any moment.
Yeah.
And the full-on audio was fully equipped. It was, Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi, iPad controlled mixer, Yamaha, super dope, like really nice. But then the way that you would run your audio was you would connect to a Sonos situation, and that iPad would control that Sonos.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I know you have more words than interesting.
Well, I didn't even see it. I don't want to judge it, but it feels complicated.
I mean, complexity wasn't all that big of a deal, but here's what I learned really fast, and I should have tested it, and I'm critical of our teams of this, and I was absolutely the person who did not check, I was actually, doing my own don't do kind of thing. But what happened was during sound check, everything was fine. Branch, the singer, was using separate tracks from Spotify. Normally we all run Spotify, we download it, and we run our Spotify for ceremony canned music. No, wasn't a problem. But Branch had his own custom, instrumental tracks that would only run through iTunes. And so I used my laptop for everything as opposed to my phone.
Okay.
And so what I found out when Branch got ready to get up there and go is that you actually had to go into iTunes and select the Sonos to shoot the audio. So he gets up there, I hit play, but I was in Spotify prior to.
Was it just coming out of your computer?
Nothing was coming out.
Oh, okay.
So I about had a heart attack at ceremony, man.
Yeah.
And it probably lasted 6-8 seconds because I figured it out.
Feels forever.
I know. And luckily we were saved by still people coming in.
Yeah.
So it was like he was pausing to let other people in, but really he was pausing because there was no music.
Yeah.
So that was stressful. And then again, I had to do another Spotify switch over during the middle of the ceremony and get back to another song for Branch. And it did it again, Rev.
Wow.
It did it again.
One thing I've started doing, especially in ceremony, if the couple or group has a specific song that's like their own edit, that's like a MP3 file.
Yeah.
I airdrop it. I always use an iPad.
Yeah.
And I airdrop the file into there, and it'll pull up in like the documents or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can just like double click that button real quick to switch between Spotify, and it depends what iPad you have, I guess, but to go between that and the actual file. I don't really ever use iTunes.
Well, I'll never use iTunes again.
Yeah.
I mean, iTunes let me down. Like, I think that's what happened was it switched over. That's what it was natively playing on my laptop, which I'll never do again.
Yeah.
Like, I just won't. And what's weird is it's like iOS devices will do that. They'll just play natively, whatever they are. But for some reason,
my laptop
will play.
If you double click it, it automatically throws it into iTunes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was hosed, man.
That's crazy.
And I felt terrible, as a perfectionist. You know how it is, man. It's like you want it to go well and you want all those cues to hit right, and they didn't hit right. And that's when I walked in and I saw you in the reception space. And I knew that we had another set of like craziness that was about to happen.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that guy to sing. Like, he killed it, and his voice sounded just like that Mr. Grinch song.
Yeah.
He killed it.
He sang the Grinch,
It sounds so good.
He sang the Grinch, and then he sang Beauty and the Beast, Be Our Guest to open up like dinner.
Yeah.
And your boy Russ is acting like Maitre D, letting tables out.
Yeah.
Which, let's talk about that for a second. So, like, this is something that and we're going to find out this. Rev has a overwhelming experience in the club and has been working with us on private events for the last little over a year. And, there's a lot of things that go into weddings, especially when you're releasing tables to the buffet. And a rule of thumb that I have used moving forward on all of that is, instead of the wedding planner is going to give the DJ, hey, these are the table numbers, call them out, don't get too many in the line.
Yeah.
And so a lot of DJs will be like, table 1.
That's what I do. I do that.
Table 2, your turn. But you saw on Saturday, my MO is to own the room and own the space and actually go to the table.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little, because I used to do that too.
It's definitely better, and it doesn't sound like you're in some kind of auction house, with random numbers flying out. And people are trying to talk and have conversations, and it kills the vibe if you're on the mic. I don't know. I just feel like my safe space is behind the booth, and I don't want to run out there to different tables. And I always wish that the wedding planner would have a team to do it themselves, but sometimes it falls on us.
Right.
And I think eventually I'm going to start doing it your way, where I just go around and dismiss tables, but just me being lazy and comfortable. I just want to get on the mic real quick. I don't know.
Yeah, and it requires a level of interpersonal communication where you kind of have to get used to it. Yeah. But I think, if at all possible, I want the planners team to handle that detail, because it's just easier on everybody.
Yep.
Because they know they need to keep that line moving and whatever. And for me, I like to talk anyway. So I get involved in conversations, and I'll look up and the line's down and people are still sitting down, and I should have released them. It is a long, But anyway, so I'll probably walk 2 miles just to get people, their food, because that place is so big.
Yeah.
But, so there was all that. And so let's talk about, we get done with dinner, we get Branch done, and we have, his audio to deal with. And he stood in 2 different places, right? So he had to hear in 2 different ways.
Yeah.
We're running LD Maui 44 G2s is what we were running that night. And we'll talk about those on another podcast. But man, they killed that room.
Yeah.
They were, slamming.
We were kind of tucked away in the corner, and we're throwing sound across the whole room. The dance floor itself was probably 30, 40 feet away from us.
I think you're right.
With tables in front. And I was out on the dance floor, and it was bumping. Sounds so good.
Dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was crazy. They held that room so well. And even in that tight space where I would have preferred to probably spread them out.
Yeah.
And kind of disperse that way. We were really shooting at the dance floor pretty much. I felt like it carried the room really well.
Yeah, it did.
I would definitely use those again in that scenario. But anyway, long story short is we get to this first dance situation. And this was not really sprung on us. I knew about the video, Rev. I'll be honest with you. I've known about the video for about 10 months now. But I was assured that the projector would be close to my booth. And
it was not.
It was not. It was not.
Definitely was
How
not.
far away was it? It was
out in the front of the dance floor, so 40 feet.
Yeah. So there's no really HDMI transmission via cable is really recommended at about 50 feet. And I'm not going to go buy a 50-foot, cable for this one event. And so I was like, my only solution, Rev, is for you to get out into the middle of the dance floor and hit play.
During their first dance.
During their first dance. But then we were but the audio is native to the laptop. And so I'm sure if I would have researched other opportunities or options, we could have gotten audio in a different way. But our solution was, let's Bluetooth audio, cross our fingers, and hope
straight to the speaker.
Straight to the Maui 44.
Yeah.
One of them. And then let's see if we can daisy chain it together to provide stereo. And it worked.
Yeah.
Halfway.
Yeah.
We got one.
I'm surprised you said that left speaker didn't get any signal from the first Bluetooth speaker, which is weird.
No.
I wonder if if it's just a through to where when you're running the XLR into the input, it just sends that signal through to the output, and maybe their Bluetooth signal isn't set up to go to that through channel.
Yeah, I think there's some settings inside of the 44s that we're missing that we're going to have to work through, because I know you can stereo link all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be wireless. And we just, honestly, we've been so busy since we've gotten those speakers, like we just haven't had time, you know?
Yeah.
But I almost thought, no, you know what it is let's pull that other XLR out. It's bypassing it. Let's put it in. You know what I mean? Like maybe that was the problem.
Yeah.
But it has 2 inputs. Like it shouldn't.
Well, I didn't notice sitting out there in the middle of it. It sounded like both speakers to me.
Oh, well.
And it was just
good.
one, which is crazy. And they were dancing. It sounded good.
Yeah. Well, thank God that the transmission worked. Because, like, dude, if that moment goes south, what do we do?
No sound. I don't know. I would rather have like yanked your computer and run over to plug it into the DJ mixer and just have sound and like say screw the video. You know, that's the only way to get through it.
I feel like that would have been the only option.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get to test it because
it was a surprise.
Yeah. I think that was the part that was the most stressful, dude, was that like, yeah, there's only so many things I can do, you know, and I'm just like crossing my fingers hoping it's going to work.
Yeah.
But, all right, so let's talk about that was that event, dude. And then we I mean,
it was rocking.
Dude, once we got through that part, we felt good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's what Rev and I did. So, again, I'd never done this before. Rev's a pro at this. We ran our Humpter DJ booth, which is not the same as this one. We'll talk about that in a later podcast about that piece of gear. But we ran our Humpter B3, which allows us to sort of pretty much hide all of our crap behind it. And we had a lot of crap. And so what we were running that night was really just 2 microphones. We run a Yamaha racked up situation mixer. We run a Rev 7.
Yep.
And we
love the Rev 7.
Love the Rev 7. We'll talk about that in a second. And then we ran both uplights and both pixel tubes. We ran 6 pixel tubes. We ran 2 by the booth and 4 on the dance floor, which we'll talk about how we lay that out. And then we ran 2 Chauvet Wash FX2s.
Yep.
Which I think we could have used 2 more. I felt like it was not enough for that space, which next time we'll run 4.
Yeah.
You know?
The main problem was being so far from the dance floor area because you're throwing light and it still looked good, but it wasn't like that direct.
Yeah.
Lighting.
What it looks like a lot of times in our stuff is that you're literally like blinding people, you know, with those things are so great.
Yeah.
Dude, for $280, I don't know that you can buy a better DJ light.
Nope.
Do you think so? Like
that's what I went with.
Else?
And like not for that amount of money, it is the best type of wash effect lighting that you can, and it's portable. Throw it in a little bag, hook it up DMX if you want, if you're running SoundSwitch or whatever. And yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I just, man, we landed on those. We used the Wretched, and we're going to get some hate for this, but we used the Wretched gig bar to move for a while.
I've never had a gig bar. I'm going to put it out there. I steered clear of the gig bar train.
I did not. I started with the gig bar. And I regret that decision, but every day when I look at our old social media, I think to myself,
those are the glory days.
Thank heavens we've moved on from the gig bar. But Chauvet still makes great products, and I love that. I love that Wash FX 2. In fact, I like the Hex 2 because I think you can go like black light with those, but we don't have any of those. But yeah, man. So those are the things that we use. We use gravity stands for all of our lighting stands. But so basically, Rev and I tag teamed it. So I took the first, say, 30, 40 minutes, 35 minutes. I kind of played the like old people songs, you know, because it was like an all ages party. There were kids there.
Yeah.
And what we try to do, Rev and I both kind of have this mentality is like, we want to try to include all ages, you know, in that first part of the set.
One thing that's a key point that I learned, I think it was Digital Dave. He was on a podcast I was listening to, and he says if he's doing a wedding where there's older people, he'll start out, you know, with that, you know, Bee Gees, all that genre of music, but you don't want to lose your younger people. So within like the first 20 minutes, throw some new Dua Lipa song or whatever's hype.
Yep.
Just so they know, oh, this DJ has
it's coming.
That music.
Yeah, I like how he says that.
He's not gonna. The younger people aren't just gonna check out and go look at their phone in the corner. You know,
which is what would happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Know? We get that. I mean, and it's becoming more and more and more and more. So really, that was the setup, Rev and I. And so let's talk about the Rev 7 for a second. Like why we like that thing. Yep. Why do you like that thing for weddings?
Moving platters is a big deal. I come from the turntable world, so I'm used to that feeling. And I remember the first time I saw and played on a Rev 7, I was like, okay, this feels like a record. And I was comfortable with that, even doing the different cuts and techniques. It's a little weird because you can't just brush the platter or speed it up how you would on a turntable. It has those pitch plus minus buttons. Which once you're used to that, it's great. Like you can make little adjustments.
Yep. And you know what? I'm agreeing with you because I have no idea what you're saying because I'm not like
I mean,
but I'm all like, everybody's gonna be like, Russ he's a cut guy too, huh? No, I'm like, no, Rev. Okay, keep educating me. Rev.
No, I think it's awesome. Like if you come from that turntable kind of battle DJ world, like that's what they aimed the Rev 7 towards was that group of DJs.
Yeah, and it's different than the Rain 1, which I have as well. I run as well. And I'm learning from Rev that I think the Rev 7 is a superior product.
Yeah.
Because it's got built-in effects. Like I didn't understand that world, Rev, until you introduced it to me. So thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, like let's say you get into a moment of desperation and you have to use Spotify.
Yeah.
You can mix out of that song with the Rev 7 because it's got built-in effects.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is a game changer for wedding DJs, man. With the amount of requests that we get.
Yeah, it's cool because if you, and it's not like a desperate moment. If someone comes up and asks for something random and you're not using like BeatSource or some streaming platform, like just throw up Spotify, type it in. It streams through the Rev 7 on the left channel.
Yeah.
And then you can literally add an echo or a reverb and then switch back to Serato, mix in the other side. No one even knows that you're using Spotify.
Dude, don't give away our secrets.
I'm sorry. Stuff that people should know.
That's that gatekeep stuff that honestly that I didn't know anything about. Like I would always wonder, like, how in the world are all these people getting these requests and they're able to do it until I discovered that you could run Spotify through the actual controller. I was sunk, dude. Like I was, you know, you'd have to buy all this music until BeatSource came along. It was actually stable enough, you know, because Tidal wasn't like, you couldn't do that with Tidal.
I never messed with Tidal.
Nah, it was bad, dude. It was trash. In fact, I'll have to tell you a story of my first wedding. I used Tidal. It was bad, dude. It was a disaster. But yeah, so I love the Rev 7 for that. I think, and also because we were doing what we were doing, we were able to A/B USB wise, where you could run your laptop, I could run mine, and it was flawless.
It's a very common thing in the nightclub world where you might have an opening DJ and then a headliner comes in, and all the mixers now that clubs are running have two USB, I guess it's an input, from your computer. So it's an A and B side, and you can switch between laptops, and the Rev 7 has that built in. What I was surprised and very happy to find out is we were running SoundSwitch.
Yeah, let me go get that controller.
Okay. For the lighting, it's all running through SoundSwitch, which is a program that scans basically all your songs, and it'll build custom DMX light shows for each individual
I'm going to be
song.
like Vanna White for you.
Yeah, this thing right here. This is the Control One by SoundSwitch. And
so it's got, I was surprised about this, bro.
I looked at the back of it, and it has two USB outputs also, or inputs, whatever.
Yeah.
So we could run lighting from both our MacBooks.
Yeah, and you just switch it. So like, it's the same exact thing as you could do with the Rev, where you switch laptops based on your own Serato setting.
Yeah.
which was dope.
And then we're running the Donner wireless DMX
So
little antenna guy out the back.
Yeah.
So it was super simple and triggering strobes and whiteouts and all that stuff. It was legit.
Talk about why you like this unit. Why do you like it?
So normally what I'll do is early on in the night, I'll set it's called, what is it called in SoundSwitch? Like a...
Oh, yeah. What is it? They call it a...
It's not a auto. Anyway, it's like a
it's like
static
like
look.
Static look. That's what it is.
And I'll have it set for like candle mode, where basically it's just uplights at that amber candle looking color. And that stays all the way through until we dance everybody. And then I'll turn that static look off. And then you can use the Control 1 to do strobes, to do color overrides. If we, at some point, my dream and goal is to use some moving head lights, projectors, and have them to where if they're cutting the cake out in the middle of the dance floor, you have spots come on, that kind of stuff, and you can trigger all those settings from that controller, which I think is mainly what it's built for. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's dope, man. Like what you're talking about, Rev, is this line up here. Like it'll start out with like blackout, and then there's a white.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you're getting into a drop of the song, you can just be like, why, you know, or whatever. And then set that to strobe. There's a strobe button.
Yeah.
Just all those things.
It looks boring right now because it's not plugged in, but it's all backlit, like LED colors and stuff.
It's super sick.
Yeah.
So, not sponsored. We bought these like on our own. We literally run these kind of because we love them. I mean, you were running the dongle for a while, and then I got these, and so now this is what we do. So yeah, we like them in that regard. So,
and I think we should touch on if you're in a multi-op kind of DJ company, having everybody that runs their lightings set them to the same DMX channels, because this would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, dude.
If I came in to DJ with Russ at this wedding and all my DMX channels were different than what he had his set to, like nothing would have synced up. So we're always kind of using the same lighting setup with the wash effects, the uplights, and the tubes, and we have them all set to the same DMX channels on every laptop that we're running. So no matter what, it all talks the same language.
Yeah. Dude, that's a good point, man. I didn't even think about that until you brought it up before we even started the podcast. But yeah, so basically how we set that up is Rev really advised me. It's like, hey, you know, let's give two lights, channel 57 through whatever. Let's give two, you know, and so I think we got like what, 57, 67, 77.
Yeah, like our uplights are kind of set in groups where there's 4 main channels, so they can do chases. And then every case of uplights that we have are programmed the same channel. So it's all just, and you can set out as many of them as you want. If you want to run 100 uplights, they'll all do the same kind of thing.
Right. And some DJs are going to tell us, be like, well, I want to be able to like mix it up. You totally can. Like, that's up to you. But
it's your world. we stay in our lane.
But we have 7 teams to deal with. And so if you want to go custom, you can. But for us, all the uplights are going to do the exact same thing around the room. Yes, I know that you can do every other a color, whatever. We don't, but this is what we do.
Ours might not be the best way, but it's the right way.
And so the other thing, this is the last thing that we'll talk about this wedding we just did, but what we've been doing and experimenting with is the both pixel tubes. And they're still a work in progress, to be honest with you. I'm not happy with the pixel situation where it goes up and stacks up and comes back down. I think that we should see a lot more of that. And in the auto scripts that we're running,
I think that's more of a SoundSwitch programming
SoundSwitch,
thing.
if you are listening to this, put more in there. Holy crap.
And I don't know how to go in there and
Me neither.
mess with it. It's probably something easy, but to do a chase with the pixels in the tube light, I don't know.
Yeah. It would just, that part is cool, but I really like these.
Every once in a while, I see it. It does it on its own. I'm like, oh, that's so sick. And it lasts like 3 seconds, and then, it's done.
I was griping at Rev that they didn't do it. And next thing I know, he's like, dude, they're doing it. They're doing it.
Yeah. It's certain songs.
Rev
that
brought
just
the
throws it in there.
Yeah. In your library, it works. Maybe it was the songs that you were running. I wonder.
No.
Was it stuff
you were
off of mine too?
DJing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now we know.
I think you're probably just so focused you don't look up to watch the lights, and like I was actually watching them. So
you're probably right.
Yeah.
So with that said, like, what do you think of those both pixel tubes, man? Like, you like them?
They're cool. I think they add a lot, and like people look at them like giant lightsabers. That's what people say all the time.
All the time.
And I think everybody's kind of getting tubes, and that's the common thing now.
Yeah, we got like this is different,
but they add something, especially around the DJ booth area. Like, you were very brave to put them out on the dance floor, and I saw a few people like picking them up, and luckily they weren't like swinging them around. But I almost had to sprint out there and be like, "Hey, put that down."
Tackle somebody. Put that thing costs more than your car, bro.
But what I will say is, I prefer, whenever you order these from Both Lighting, you can either get a 4-pack in the carry case, which is a soft bag, or you can get 8 of them in a road case with like wheels, and that thing's bulky.
Dude, I bought 2 of those.
It's too much.
They suck so much. Like, both. Fix it. It sucks. That case sucks.
Just know that if you're like a mobile DJ type of rig, moving that stuff around, those big cases, like,
dude, it's almost 5 feet
But that's what they have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the size of the tubes, fitting 8 of them in there.
Yeah.
But I just prefer the soft bags and like throw them around.
Well, and the design of that case too, if you notice, it's got wheels on both sides.
Yeah.
So, which is great when it's on the floor and you're trying to wheel it around.
Yeah.
But when you need to slide it up and like lean it on something, it's dude. I almost pull my hair out, man.
Yeah.
Every time that stupid thing. And it's 5 feet long, bro. And it's this wide. So luckily we have a van. Like, it wouldn't fit in somebody's car, dude.
I have trouble fitting the soft bag in my truck. I have to like put it up in the front seat passenger side. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's worth it once you're out on the dance floor. I mean, we've had situations where this summer, man, this fall, we had a bunch of weddings going on at the same time. And it was on me. I didn't pack one of the vans with the Wash FX. So that team showed up. They didn't have the wash, but they did have 4 tubes, and the 4 tubes pulled the dance floor off.
Yeah.
Because we were in a little bit of a smaller space, and so it worked. Like, the brightness of those things is really impressive.
Yeah. I really like the wireless DMX with those and the uplights, because you can just throw them anywhere. There's no cables for people to trip over. I've never had an issue with one of them getting out of sync or doing weird stuff. Like, once you set it to the right channel, they work. Ride. Yeah.
Which I think that's what you want as a DJ. You're like, I need something to just work. Like, it be a workhorse. And I feel like they're a little delicate. One of them has broken on me without even like really messing with it that much. So I'm not super pumped about how long they're going to last. Yeah. We'll see. We've had them about 6 months now, but I'm impressed with there's some things that hopefully version 2, and I know Rick Webb's all over the whole USA side. Rick Webb, if you ever listen to this podcast, dude, you got to fix the cases, man. They suck. They're so terrible. They are so bad.
I'm sure he knows. He deals with it all the time.
Yeah. So anyway, they suck. Moving on. So, Rev, let's talk about, I wanted to, in this first podcast, to really, like, obviously, Ozark Mix, we've been doing our thing for 4 years now. I started out just as a wedding DJ. I'll get to tell my story one of these days, but all I know is private events. Yeah. I had never DJ'd anything until I DJ'd at a wedding. That was my first one. It's what I know. I've hit some clubs. I've done that for just some one-off situations, because being invited by somebody I know, or a bride that's in a sorority or something like that.
Yep.
And I get the club vibe. I've done, live events where it feels more festival kind of thing. But, you know, I just want you to kind of run us up your own DJ experience, man. Like start from the beginning and, you know, hit those things and like give us your backstory. And I just want to hear, because I know some of it. I don't know all of it, but you know, I mean, we got plenty of time, dude. Cameras are rolling.
Okay.
So like,
well, a lot of people ask me, you know, how did you get into this? And I don't really know how I started it, but I was always kind of a musical person. I took 6 years of choir in school.
Yeah.
And I would get these musician friends magazines. I don't know if you
I
ever
know,
got
right? Yeah. Guitar Center owns those guys and stuff.
Yeah. And in the very back, when you flip through, there would be like one page of DJ equipment, and it would be like turntables, these like package boxes that Jim and I made. And for some reason, I was drawn to this equipment, and I convinced my dad to order me some CD players. And it was like a 19-inch Gemini 4-channel mixer with 2 American DJ front load CD players.
Right.
So, because I had all CDs. This was after vinyl had been a thing. And like, I was watching these vinyl DJs, and I was like, I don't want to deal with all that. All my music was on CDs. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where you were running.
So I just practiced mixing. I would put like the same song on both sides and mix those together, just to get my beat matching correct.
So this was no Serato. This was pre that stuff.
Didn't exist.
This was just like music coming analog. Yeah,
and it was whenever you give your desktop computer like every virus because you're downloading off Napster or LimeWire.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So I would find these songs. There was actual DJ pools back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
And they would send you CDs in the mail.
Right.
But they would send out an email, and it would actually have the titles of all the songs and the artists of like the new stuff. So I would just download that stuff like on Napster free. I'm not gonna order your
so you're
CD,
just getting
bro.
It from other people.
And it might have like some terrible quality version, or there's like some guy screaming in the middle of it. Like it was bad. Like the Wild West days.
Do you still have any of those?
Oh yeah. I have all the CDs.
Okay.
And so I would burn the CD and then sit there with a little stopwatch kind of and count the BPMs of each song, and then type up. It would go, each CD would go from the slowest song to the fastest at the beginning to the end. So that's
how your brain works. I've spent enough time with you. To know that's how it works.
I'm a little OCD and like perfectionist. But when you're flipping through a book of CDs and you're at a certain BPM, you want to jump to something, like it's easy. It's better to have it that way.
100%.
It doesn't matter now because everyone's on computers. But so I started doing like birthday parties, my school, junior high dances, proms, that kind of stuff. This was when I was like 17, 18. I wasn't even old enough to do nightclubs. And
what did your dad think? Like, what did your parents think?
They were supportive.
They bought you this first thing, and they saw like how you had done it.
So my dad was actually a sound guy for our church. He would run sound, and he had speakers and stuff at home. He was kind of like an audio nerd. And so I would mess with that stuff. And he was into it. Like, he didn't understand the scratching and like the sounds and all that, but he thought
they were
cool.
supportive of what you were doing. Yeah.
And they wanted me to go to college, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm going to DJ. And I was making pretty good money just from doing mobile gigs, you know? And then I kind of wanted to venture. I saw these DJs like Tiesto and the big, this was before festivals, and it was like nightclubs that you'd see over in Europe or, you know, Vegas even.
This would have been like what year? Like,
so I graduated high school 2005, and it was that time range.
So so pre-YouTube.
2005 to 2010.
Yeah, so pre-YouTube.
Yeah.
So
it was like internet, AOL just getting started, like dial-up internet.
Right.
And then my dad got a job with Walmart, so we moved up here to Bentonville, and I was still, that kind of changed. I had all my clients in Fort Smith is where it started.
Yeah, which is about an hour south of where we live now.
Yeah, and I was getting the itch to do more nightclubs, and I was like, well, there's not really much nightclubs in Northwest Arkansas. So I found a local piano bar that was like dueling pianos.
Yeah.
And shout out to Yancey Price. He was the owner. But he gave me a shot to come in there on like Sundays and DJ, and they had pianos on Friday, Saturday.
Right.
And then it got to the point where Sundays were so busy, he fired all the piano guys, ripped out the stage, and put this huge dance floor, and was paying me like $200 a night to DJ.
Let's go. You're 17 years old. You're making $200 every Sunday.
Doing Friday, Saturday, so making like $400 a weekend. Still living with my parents.
Yeah.
No bills.
So you're like, what college? Like,
Yeah.
I don't need college.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so a lot of my family was trying to get me to go the college route. And I actually visited, if I did do college, I wanted to go audio engineering.
Yeah.
So I visited Full Sail, which is
Sure.
in Orlando,
Yeah, I
and
know.
Los Angeles Recording School. So my parents were very supportive of wanting me to go on that route.
Yeah.
But then I decided to move to Dallas because that's where I thought it's the closest big city
Mm-hmm.
where I can still come visit my family, and there's actually nightlife there.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So
when I
your
was-
whole dream was like, well, not dream, it was just your plan. You were like, I'm going to go down to Dallas. I'm going to get into some clubs.
I
I'm
wanted
going
to
to have a
DJ
residency.
for like hundreds of people,
Yeah.
thousands if possible.
Because at that time, like Northwest Arkansas, like it wasn't what it is now.
No.
You know, now
I think there might have even been like a dry county. I think Bentonville,
Bentonville was.
dry
Yeah,
county.
Benton County was a dry
Yeah.
county.
So
like there's nothing going on in the bar.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, there's Dixon Street here in Fayetteville if anybody ever visits
Yeah.
here. But there wasn't like a big club scene. So you're there, you're like, I'm going to get into a club scene situation.
yeah. And so I would drive down there and just go out and check out all the clubs and hand out CDs. I made like mix CDs that I recorded.
Yeah.
And would I tried not to handwrite on them. I would like get a label printed if I was
Okay.
fancy.
Yeah.
Handed those out, met some of the owners. Like this is the main thing is if you're wanting to get into bars or clubs, you got to get out there and meet the people who are working, especially the managers, the bartenders, because there might be a situation comes up where the DJ gets sick or doesn't show up and they call you because like you're
gotta be
there all the
ready.
time and they know you're a DJ
Yeah, yeah.
and that's your shot
Yeah.
to get in. So that's what I was kind of doing.
Yeah.
And then I got a job with Guitar Center
Yeah.
for like 3 months. That was my first job in Dallas, and I was barely scraping by rent. That was my first
Shout out to the
apartment.
$7 an hour Guitar Center
Yeah.
job. I
And
had one of those.
All I knew was DJ equipment, and they stuck me in pro audio.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like trying to, got people
Do
asking
you remember
about,
your employee number?
No,
I remember mine.
no.
038938, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Guitar Center. But I didn't know about keyboards. I was like, just let me stay in this little room
Yeah.
with the controllers.
Yeah.
So that got me by. And then I finally had enough gigs where I could support paying bills.
And do you remember what your first gig was? Like, was it one of those situations where one of those club owners was like, dude, I don't have somebody on Thursday. I need you to come down here? Or was it like,
Well,
oh, no, Rev's the guy? You know?
I approached a club. It was Wish Ultra Lounge is what it was called. And
Yeah.
Sam Samini was the owner. So shout out to Sam. He's a good dude. I came in, I talked with him, and he basically told me to my face, like, you're too green and, like, you're not ready for this. Like, spend some more time. So I took that to heart. And then I got a gig with a different club kind of down in a different area called Aura.
Okay.
And this was like my big shot. It blew up. It was like the top club at the time. I actually had Paris Hilton in the DJ booth with me.
Dang.
And this was before.
What was that like, man?
Well, so they booked, at the time she was dating this dude who was like a reality TV show guy.
Right.
I forget his name. But he was the one that was scheduled to show up at the club. He canceled it, and he was like, I'm going to make it up to you guys. I'm going to bring someone next time that will make it up. You don't have to pay extra. And, like,
Okay.
we knew it was going to be Paris.
Right.
So, like, paparazzi was there.
It was
like,
all in on
legit
it.
paparazzi. This is, like, maybe early TMZ, all that.
Oh
I'm
my
in the
gosh.
booth just trying to play music. And there's, like, 50 cameras out.
Whoa.
It was wild. And this was before Paris got into DJing.
Okay.
She was still like Simple Life, that kind of era.
Yeah.
But she wrote down on a receipt like song requests that she
No
wanted
way.
to hear, and she had a single out at that time that she had sang, and I was like, I will play these songs for you, but you got to sign at the bottom.
Ooh.
So she did like a big heart with Paris, and I still have that like
Dude,
stashed away.
That's a dope story.
Yeah.
And so that was like the beginning of your time.
Yeah.
So I mean, would
I
you
was
say-
kind of thrusted in like
Yeah.
mainstream nightlife, and I had the music, you know, and I was still figuring out. I was a big EDM guy, like techno music, and that was kind of blowing up at that time.
At that time.
Yeah.
And so, but now what I know of you is Rev's an incredible scratch DJ. Like,
I try.
dude, I mean, I would put this guy up against anyone I've ever heard live. And I'm not just saying that because we are buddies and work together,
appreciate it.
but, and you know, so talk about that development. Like, I feel like you were an EDM, which a lot of times people are like, you're just pushing buttons. When you're an EDM DJ, you're just really working transitions and effects. Like, I think for me, I love EDM because I'm a guitar player at heart, and I love using effects, and I get that piece, and I'm working my way into the other side of scratch. But like, so when did that switch kind of?
So I was always interested in it was called turntablism.
Sure.
Using records to manipulate the sound with the fader and cut it up different ways. And this started back in the 80s when like records were still, DJs in New York were scratching. And when I lived in Fort Smith, I had a buddy who sent me a VHS tape of a DMC World Championship battle.
Yeah.
Like a VHS tape.
Yeah.
And I would watch that thing on repeat, like over and over again to learn like what these dudes were doing. And so my dad had this old record player, and we spliced in a start-stop button, like to turn it on and off.
Like you just rigged it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I had my CD players with a record player on the side, and I would scratch. I had like a Scooby-Doo record and like these Disney records, and I was just throwing random sounds over the top of the CDs.
Were just, okay. Wow.
And I recorded some of it. Like, it was bad. It was bad.
but that
was
did it just get you hooked? Like you were just like, this is it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but being able to take those sounds and just put your hand and manipulate it certain ways, I thought was super cool.
Yeah. And so where has that, passion taken you in being a club DJ, and like where has that kind of gotten you?
So I still embraced like the hip hop side of it, and I that culture and the DJs and break dancing and all that hip hop stuff I think is awesome.
It's amazing.
And then I still have my EDM electronic music side too, which is like what I personally listen to. But in the clubs, people love hip hop.
Yeah.
And so I think if you have the ability to do a little cut or a technique, it just opens up your vocabulary of presenting music to people.
Yeah.
And it gives them a chance to see, oh, that DJ is actually doing something, instead of someone just up there with headphones that kind of gets lost.
Yeah. It's just the transition play.
And I think now with social media, all these guys, there's two categories. There's DJs that know what they're doing and kill it, and they just hit record and do some sick stuff. And then there's kind of these, I don't want to call them posers, but they're less experienced, and they kind of just throw a mix on. They might not even touch the faders or the equipment, and those get millions of views.
Oh, in the mashup game that people are playing of just like, we know because this is what we do every day, and we have spent hundreds of hours DJing.
Yeah,
we know that it's literally just but we often talk to ourselves. It's like, well, we're not the one putting the content out, so they're the ones that are.
And I'm not going to hate on them because they're accomplishing their goal and
100%.
Getting views, making money, doing it a different route, and that's cool.
Do you, bro?
Like back in the day, there used to be a bunch of haters. Like whenever the first controllers came out, so we were all on CDJs or turntables, and then they started releasing these controllers, and we were like, man, these controller DJs, they suck.
They're gonna take over the world. They're gonna steal our job.
Everybody's on controllers,
Yeah,
and I like controllers.
Me too.
I think it's great. So
Yeah,
it just changes.
Well, it's all I know. You
Yeah.
know, I wouldn't know how to DJ without it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like even just jumping into turntables, like there's no way that I could have gotten to where I am had I had to learn how to be a turntablist.
No.
Like there's no way.
No.
No way. And yeah, that's crazy. So has any of your DJ experience, have you done any of the like competitions? Cause first, like I see what you do and I'm like, Rev could win Red Bull tomorrow if he just practiced it.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
I was in 2 Red Bull 3-style battles.
Yeah.
And this was at the time where the local Red Bull reps would invite you personally to come do, like, it was city-based. So Dallas would have 8 to 12 DJs that were hand-picked.
Yeah.
And they actually gave me this sick little portable turntable record player that's in a case with the Red Bull logo on the back.
I should have asked you to bring it.
I know. I'll bring it some other
bust
time.
it out.
Yeah. But I never won that. It was a cool experience, but there was like other DJs that killed it more than me. And like, man, the nervousness of getting up on a stage in front of like 800 people and
all eyes on you.
Yeah, and we would draw straws on the order.
I was going to ask you how that worked.
Like who would go first? They would put numbers in the hat and we would each draw. So like if you got picked to go first, you didn't want to be first or last. You wanted to be somewhere in the middle because you knew the judges, they're going to judge the first person. They don't know what's coming up. So they're going to be like, whatever, this first guy's kind of toss away. And then by the end of it, they're going to be bored and kind of.
And everybody's done your routine almost.
Yeah.
You know, they've done what you're going to do.
Yeah. So.
What was the, like, so, like they let 8 go and then they kind of whittle it down to like top 2 or 3? Like, how does that competition work anyways?
I'm trying to remember how the ones we did it. Because it was a 15-minute set.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time,
is
dude.
15 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't realize
traditionally.
That's crazy.
And you have to play 3 genres of music.
Okay.
And yeah.
And so you just work it in. And
that's basically the rules. Like 15 minutes.
15 minutes, 3 genres. Gotta do that.
Impress us. Yeah.
Man.
So if you got, 10 guys doing 15 minutes, that's a long
that's
night.
a long set.
So I think it would just be like you'd throw down one time and then they would pick top 3 and announce 3rd place, 2nd place. And then the first place would get some cool DJ stuff. Like all the top winners would get stuff.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I also did some local DJ battles, which were like, you would win some money or whatever that the local clubs would put on.
Yeah.
And did pretty good at those. But there was politics involved that I'm not going to get into.
One of these days, maybe I'll get it out of you. But I love hearing that because, what's cool about you, man, that I've grown to really appreciate is like, you bring that level of energy into this private event space that you and I are working together in. And like I said, like all I know is that space. And so anything that we're doing that we're trying to innovate is really just, I'm really kind of thinking about like taking club elements and sort of bringing it in. And you've definitely helped in the last year of like raising that level of experience for the customer.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this again and again and again, I'm sure. But I'm just of the opinion that what I know of the demographic of people that are getting married right now, that club experience is going to make its way into the private event space.
For sure.
Whether we want it to or not.
Yep.
And we've built our business around providing that experience anyway.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to ask you, like, what went into the decision of you, you still kind of put your toe a little bit into the club side, but now you're pretty much like all in on private events.
Yeah.
Like what all went into that, and like what has been your experience inside of private events so far?
Okay, so blunt honesty is I got burnt out doing nightclubs and sucked into the party life and drinking, and my body was taking a toll. And I was dating Sarah at the time, and we were fighting over dumb stuff. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I want to just pull the eject cord. And so we left Dallas. She was born and raised there, lived there her whole life. So she trusted me. I wanted out. I wanted to start a family. I wanted to do that. I was getting older. Like, I feel old. But so I had all this previous knowledge of DJing.
Yeah.
And I took like a full year and a half off when I moved back up here of not DJing, and I missed it. And so I was thinking, you know, like, I don't want to do bars, but there's so many weddings and stuff happening here, and Walmart throwing events. Like, it's a wide open market. So that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's tackle this and do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say, the first wedding that I did, I was probably 10 times as nervous as any of those DJ battles, because weddings is just a different game. And like, you get used to it, but I'm still to this day like nervous about it.
It's high pressure, man.
Yeah.
And I you know, I don't know that I'll ever say this like publicly, so maybe I won't say it, but part of me thinks that the pressure of that is a little bit harder than the club scene and the festival scene.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm actually probably going to be more at my best with a more like 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Then and kind of be like, whatever, dude. I mean, these guys they're here for a fun time. If I just rip this song, it's gonna be fine. But if I miss it, first 3 songs at the dance floor at a wedding, man, it's
and
so
most
much pressure,
weddings,
dude.
you know, are like 100, 200 people. If you have a wedding that's less than 100 people, there's so much pressure of like,
oh my gosh,
they're not going to get out there and dance. Or
it's tough,
I don't know
man.
what I'm going to play for these people. And you're just like running that through your head.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. It's like, yeah, it's crazy. So obviously, you know, your decision was you and Sarah are getting married. You wanted to, you know, move out of that club scene or whatever, which I get. Like, it's hard, man.
It's just a phase of your life that you go through where it's like you have passions and desires, but then that changes, you know, what you desire changes.
Yeah. So what's been your experience so far? Like, so you're about, I don't know, 14 months into doing private events, about a year with us.
Yeah.
Like, what's been that experience like?
The gear has changed a lot as far as speakers and, you know, furniture. That's a big thing now because I went to Guitar Center and I was like, I didn't have any equipment. All my stuff that I used was like 20 years old. Yeah. Like these, it's like a American DJ Vertigo. It wasn't even LED, and like I plugged it in the wall, and it's for sure a fire hazard. Like
it'll only burn the place down.
Yeah,
if you put a piece of paper
it looked
on it.
so bad, and like this is going in the trash. So I went visited my buddy Mike Romero at Guitar Center.
Big Mike, we worked with him on Saturday,
and he told me about these column arrays, and I was like, okay, and I thought they were not like cheesy, but underpowered.
Yeah. That they would just not provide.
Yeah, but then he plugged one in, and I was like, holy cow, like that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I bought 2 of those, bought some of the Wash Effects lights, and that was like my standard rig for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
That was your thing. And I remember we kind of hooked up after maybe your second or third wedding. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, one thing I realized is Russ had already had this infrastructure in place, and like I didn't want to have to build a website and come up with branding and marketing. Like you had all this going, And I just wanted to kind of slide in and help with the music and mixing and more technical DJ aspects and kind of build it out that way.
Yeah. And dude, that's exactly what I feel like we've been able to do, and sky's the limit. Like, I think I feel like Saturday was like tip of the iceberg type of situation where, you know, we're going to push the limit on what Ozark Mix is doing. But what I think I love about what you bring is that there's this club experience, and Rev, like, you're always like, oh yeah, well, I think we could do this. You know?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking like marquee letters and like, there's just like next level
Well,
stuff
I already
that's
see
just
it
like,
creeping in at some weddings, you know, and they're doing stuff that the nightclubs used to do as far, we called it like bottle presentation. And, you know, when we do intros for the wedding, I don't want to give away our stuff, but like different things to just amp it up. And it's more like giving things for the photographers to capture. Right. And that's what's really going to launch. Like, they'll be like, oh, because everybody's going to see it and be like, what is this thing that y'all have? Or like, what is this? And they'll be like, oh, well, Ozark Mix provides that. And so that's kind of like what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So I'm curious though, and I'm not trying to toot Ozark Mix's horn, but I'm curious though, why did you approach me? Like you have all this experience. You know, there's other DJ companies in our area, and I'm not looking for, but because I want people to understand, like, if you're a DJ that has club experience, like, what can you do? Where can you go if you don't feel like you want to be the person to build it all? Yeah. Like, so why? There's other people.
So I reached out to my best friend, Justin Palmer, who is a local wedding photographer, and he's worked this area like thousands of weddings probably. Yeah. And he suggested Ozark Mix. So I was like, okay. And then I creeped on your social media and your website, which is all very clean. And I was like, this is kind of the look that needs to happen. Yeah. So that's why I hit you up and we went and grabbed Slim Chickens.
Yeah, I remember that day, dude.
Yeah.
I remember that was a fun day. Yeah, so I mean, you know, I think I kind of knew the answer to that question because I want people that watch this video to really understand. It's like, my philosophy was always, when I first started, Rev, you saw my first setup, you know, you saw what that looked like. And obviously it has evolved immensely since then. But what I did know is that I didn't have the experience of the club DJ. And I was already feeling the pressure in 2020 to provide this sort of like anti-wedding DJ experience, you know, where I'm not going to hate on people, but the days of you leading people in line dances from the front, those are going to be over soon. And there are still people in the industry that do that and they get away with it, and that's great. It's not us. Yeah. And cheesy announcements and long drawn out story time. People are there now, dude, right, to dance. Yep. Like, they want to have a good time with their friends. They want to connect. And so I was beginning to see that in 2020. And I realized real fast that I did not have the skill set, like DJ turntable wise, to pull any of that off. So my branding and marketing brain went into hyper mode. And I was like, well, if we sound good with the music that's coming out, and if we look really good and I can sell the aesthetic of what is like design to our couples, then, and I knew that my MC skills were high. Yeah. Right. I knew that that's the strength that I had, that I could get away with mistakes and learning on the dance floor, you know? And I knew that if I doubled down on the way that it presented on social media, the way that the website would look, the way that we would present ourselves at the wedding, you know, I would never tell Justin Palmer this. So Justin, if you see this, the first time that Justin and I worked together, was at this like club style wedding, and I was so nervous that night because I knew that we had to pull it off.
He told me about that,
dude,
and he said you rocked it. It was good.
And I was so nervous that night because I knew it was this elevated experience, but I also knew it's funny that wedding moment was really a defining moment for me. You know, it was one of those things where I was like, wait a second, I like this, I love this, and I did feel like I did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
and so like it just kind of catapulted to where we are now. But I'm saying all that not to toot my horn, but like you just have to play to your strengths in this DJ game, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and make no mistake about it, I feel like we've built Ozark Mix to where it is now based on that aesthetic. And now we can't turn around and go backwards, right?
Yeah.
Like,
one thing I want to touch on, going from the nightclub world to the wedding world, is it just gives you a bit of a sense of better, I don't want to say accomplishment, but like in the nightclub, you're playing to a bunch of people that are drinking, getting drunk, and then going home and sleeping with each other.
Yeah.
And that's your end result. Whereas like a wedding, you watch it from start to finish. Like if you're doing ceremony, and it almost like I get goosebumps when the bride walks down the aisle. I'm like, this is such a big deal, and it's important, and you want it to go right.
Yeah.
And so having a good DJ that knows what they're doing, and every time I still like see it, and when we get to the end, I'm like, we really accomplished something important for these people's lives.
No doubt, man.
That they're gonna cherish, and that's why I like doing it.
Well, that's why I like doing it too. And I think, you know, as we begin to see, so what would you say, like, we'll kind of try to, you know, steer the ship into the harbor here, but what would you say moving forward is sort of like, what do you see on the horizon for weddings and private events in this DJ space? Like, what is the experience of that going to look like?
Yeah.
In the next couple years, probably.
You're talking about technology-wise?
Yeah. I would say that, plus, like, what are the expectations of our clients in this space?
I think we saw part of it on Saturday with the projection thing.
Oh, dude.
And doing, like, customized first dance. And I've talked to you about even doing some kind of big facade piece behind us that's like a projection wall.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be video getting tied in with DJing audio and that kind of thing. I mean, I know a lot of DJs will roll out booths with a TV in the front, and that's cool. But I think it's going to be like even big video things.
Even more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and we saw this like a couple years ago with like CO2 cannons. That's a thing. I think that's going to continue to rise. Yeah. I think, you know, lighting is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
I think what you were talking about where it's like movers and spots, you know, and different things like that. I appreciate that whole aspect. I think we just haven't done that because we're trying to run several teams and it's just intricate with that. But I think as we try to level our experience up, like that's going to happen. I would say, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I would say even from a client's perspective of just mixing in general, like if I were to throw this out on social media right now, Rev, and some of our groups that we're a part of, and I would say, hey, you need to learn how to mix or you're going to go out of business. Oh my gosh. I would have people up in my DMs calling me whatever, and that they've just built their business on, you know, clients don't care about that. Dude, those days are over. I'm going to say it right now. Those days are over and you will be out of business.
The idea of a DJ that doesn't mix does not exist in my world. Like I can't.
I get it.
I don't know. I mean, I understand that's how a lot of people used to operate.
Yeah.
But you'll have specific couples that will demand a DJ that knows how to mix songs. And even quick mix is a thing now. And you can get away with it on record pulls with the short edits, you know. Yeah. But even if you're mixing a 16 beat outro over an intro, that's too much
It's
lull
too long.
time.
It's too long.
Yeah.
People get tired. They start looking at their watch. They look at their phone. Dude, you're right. Like, it's not going to work.
And I think it speaks a lot to the younger culture of, you know, swiping TikTok. And it's like very fast.
Dude, TikTok. Thank you, TikTok, for changing the DJ game. But it's fun. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
So, and I've seen videos, it's like, gives me nightmares, but like these younger, teenage parties with the kids jumping around.
Oh my gosh.
And they got to mix like 5 seconds of a song, and then they want something else.
They
like
want something
5
else.
seconds.
To my daughter, she's 15. I DJ'd her prom last year, and it was the worst. Like, dude, it was the most pressure. And they asked us to do it again, and maybe you should go. But like, yeah, dude, it's like that, man. And at the end of the night, I felt like I had run a marathon.
Yeah.
Because it was just boop, 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 boop. But I knew that's what they needed, because that's what Amelia told me that they needed to do. But I don't know that I was prepared, dude. But I will say, like, that experience changed, you know, the way that I was mixing, which is moving towards that quick mix. That's what I do now. You know, it's like.
But I have run into situations where I'm going too much too fast, and people look back at me
They're like,
and
"What's going on?"
they're like, let the song play. And I'm like, okay. So you gotta like gas pedal it a little bit.
Do you think that comes from the club? Like,
Oh, for sure.
okay. Because the club, that's where it's experienced. I even saw a little bit of that Saturday night, because it's the first time you and I had worked together.
Yeah.
Where I don't mix like you. I'm gonna let things play out a little bit longer. But I did notice, but what I love about you is, like, you're so fast to adjust to that.
Yeah.
Like, you see somebody look back, you're like, oh, I'm gonna let that play.
Well, one thing that coming from nightclubs is you learn how to read a crowd like pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
And you base it kind of on age ranges. So
Sure.
all the clubs I was doing was like 21 to 35-year-olds. So that was a big adjustment I had to make doing weddings. I didn't have music for
Yeah.
the older crowd.
older people.
Music from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, I knew the songs. I just didn't have it on my hard drive.
It wasn't there.
Yeah. So I had to build that up. And I actually reorganized all my crates in Serato based on genre of music and years of like when stuff came out.
For sure.
So it makes it a little easier.
And I mean, we'll plug this. Like, we use BeatSource now, right? Which bails us out of so many scenarios.
Like, when I did a holiday corporate party, I just got on there. I didn't have like a ton of Christmas music, and they wanted Christmas music. So I just a whole playlist of holiday hits, you know, like
it's
pop.
There. It was there.
Pop, country, everything. And so it just loads up.
And the stuff that Nick Spinelli has curated inside of there, like the wedding. Shout out to Nick, dude. Like, I mean, OG, bro. Like, thank you. Like, to you, for real. I'm not joking. Like, thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nate Nelson, for putting together all that country stuff.
Yep.
Like, and dude, I mean, we're not sponsored or anything by BeatSource, but like, without BeatSource, man, like, my events would not be as good as they are because, like, the edits that are inside of there, the way that it makes it. Shout out DJ Spider for like turning us all on to that.
Yeah.
Spider, thanks for your podcast, bro. Like, it really helped, man. I mean, I
probably listened to, I did listen to every Nick Spinelli podcast, like, leading up to my first wedding.
Yeah.
And it was like great information. And then his playlist that he made on BeatSource, I have every one of those in my BeatSource catalog. And it's like, if you're at a certain part of a wedding where you want to rock some dinner oldies, it's like already good, set to go. And
it's
you just
ready.
Go in there, whatever BPM you want. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's and I don't know that he did this on purpose, but it's almost in mixable order. Like, it's almost there.
Yeah.
Like, you could potentially, if you just want to rock, say 2010 pop.
Oh yeah.
Just go from the top to the bottom, and Nick has it ready. So shout out, dude. And again, with Spider's got a playlist inside of that. You know, I love some DJ Spider.
Yep.
Like, he's got one in there that's perfect for like corporate parties.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like legit. It's so legit. And man, Spinderella, she's got one in there that's so dope. Like, it's so good. Anyway, shout out BeatSource. Appreciate those dudes for sure. when it comes to that side. Well,
and it's getting better. You know, it doesn't just
really
stay kind of stale. They're always updating and making it more. And then with stems now on Serato, like it's
lights out.
Stuff is blowing open crazy.
And for everybody that's on the fence about streaming, like BeatSource makes it easy because you can just take all that you have. This is what I do: is I take all that I have. If I know that client is what it's gonna need and require, I toss that in that BeatSource locker, and I'm lockstep, dude.
Yep.
I don't worry about it at all.
Yeah.
I don't worry about Wi-Fi falling apart. I don't worry about it because it's all there.
Yeah.
Like it makes it super simple. Like when we first started, I mean, it was not that easy.
Yeah.
And
I think with DJs now, like if someone's just starting out, there's not a real easy way to collect.
No.
You know, however many gigs of music that these guys are using. So if you could pay $30 a month, and if you're going to do a party and they want hip hop, you just have all the current stuff loaded in the locker. Like it's legit.
It's legit. I love the edits. I love the clean. Like we rock clean stuff at the weddings. Like it's great, man. I mean, it's just it's dope. So, well, dude, that said, man, I mean, I'm excited about our podcast. I'm excited about what's next.
Yeah. I hope it all got recorded.
Yeah, I think it's all there.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're at our studio and this is our first one and it's raining.
Yeah,
so
downpour outside.
I don't know.
I don't think you can hear
what audio is going to come through, but yeah. So for me and Rev, man, thanks for joining us and dude, we'll do this again next week. What do you think?
Subscribe. That's do all that stuff.
Subscribe to the Ozark Mix DJ. Look, the biggest thing for us with that is that we just want to give as many tools as possible. I've been working on this project for a while. I brought Rev in because I want this to be a regular occurrence. We're going to give you, more reviews, more all this stuff. So that's hopefully what's coming. But yeah, for sure. Subscribe, like, all the things. And we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Appreciate y'all.